Hello, welcome to this lecture. So in this lecture, we will design timber column. So this lecture is all about the column design. And this is the content that we are going to discuss in this lecture. So first we will get introduced with the column, and then we will see the category of column based on the type of load it supports in the terms of axially and eccentrically loaded column, and what is the meaning of solid column, then a very important concept of slenderness ratio of the column, and how do we calculate this ratio. So in that, least lateral dimension of column is involved, so we will see how do we find out that, and we will see the classification of column based on the slenderness ratio and what is their permissible compressive stress. So that is the theoretical aspect that we will cover, and then we will take a design example to understand how this theory is applicable to the design problem. So talking about the column, so basically we have to first understand what is column. Well, column can be considered as a member which carry compressive stress. Well, actually the true term should be compression member. Basically we have compression member, and compression members are those members which carry compressive force. So for example, if we have, say, this is the body, and if we apply force inwardly, so what happens? The body will compress. The body will compress, it will be reduced in the size. So this is happening because of the compression applied due to these two force. So this member will be considered as compression member. Now this this body may be horizontal, it may be inclined, it may be vertical. Well, if this body is vertical, if this body is vertical and the force is applied, I mean compressive force is applied, so in that case this vertical body may be termed as post or column. So the correct way we can define column is, the column is basically a vertical member which carry compression force. So inclined members can also be applied compression force. For example, if we have the truss members, so we know that in the truss member we are required to force, we are required to calculate forces in various members of the truss. So some of the members are in tension, some of the members are in compression. So as for example, if this member is in compression, then and because this is inclined, this will also be known as compression member, but it has a specific name. This member will actually be known as strut. So if the member is not vertical, if it is of any other angle, it may be inclined or horizontal, in that case the member is known as strut. And if the member is vertical, we generally name it as post or column. So that is the compression force behavior. And now to define column with its physical appearance, we can define it similar to the way we have defined the beam. So column is, I mean, a structural member which has a cross-sectional dimension much lesser than its length will be, and which carry load uh, along its longitudinal axis, which carry compressive load along its longitudinal axis, will be known as uh, column. So here we are talking about the timber column. So here you can see these horizontal members are beams, and these beams are supported on this vertical member. And so therefore, because of the load of beam, the vertical member is under compression and therefore known as the column, timber column. And as per definition, it says a structural element whose cross-sectional dimension are much smaller to its length and which support compressive load parallel to its longitudinal axis. So I have described the longitudinal axis earlier also. Basically, for example, if this is the member, so the axis along its longer side passing through the centroid, this axis will be known as longitudinal axis, and the axis perpendicular to the longitudinal axis will be known as transverse axis. So we have discussed this in the lecture 4 in the case of beam design. So that is the concept of longitudinal and transverse axis. So external load supported by timber column, they induces compressive stresses which are parallel to the grain in the column. In case of applied load is axial. So as you can see, load will be applied like this, and the grains of the column in this case will be again parallel to this load. So this force will actually induce stresses within the column, and these stresses will be along the grains. So we can say that in this case, the uh, stresses which are induced due to the external compressive load will be parallel to the grain or parallel to the fiber of timber column. So now we have a term axial column, which we have discussed in the previous slide. So here, this is the column which is considered as axial. Now, why we call it axial? Because the line of action of the load, here you can see this is a column and it is subjected to a load P magnitude. And the line of axis of this load will actually pass through the CG of this column. So if this line of action is passing through the CG of column, then we call it axial load, axial column. Similarly, if the line of action of the force is not passing through the centroidal or center of gravity, centroidal axis, so in that case, the column will be known as eccentrically loaded. Eccentrically loaded. So column is eccentrically loaded column, which means load is not passing along the centroidal axis of the column. So now what is the difference between them? Well, when the load passes through the centroidal axis, then the whole column will be under pure compression. Whole column will be under compression, or we can say that compressive force will be in dominance in this case. But if the load is not passing through the centroidal axis, for example, in this case, you can see the line of action of the load is having some distance with the centroidal axis. We can call this distance as E, which is called eccentricity. So if there is an eccentricity in the column because of the load line of action, so in that case, what happens is how column will fail. So in that case, column will actually bend. You can see here, the column is bending because of the eccentric load. So here, what is happening? This time, this column is behaving like a beam. In the beam, when load is coming transversely, beam is experiencing compression and tension at the same time. And the column will be behaving like a beam in this case, which means column is having compression as well as tension, which means column is experiencing bending effect. So therefore, this column which is bending, it will be under combined stress. Combined stress means it will be under compressive stress as well as bending stress. So it will be under two types of stress. One is compressive stress and bending stress because of this bending of the column. But in case of axially loaded column, it will be under compressive stress only, because in this case column is actually compressing, it is not bending. So that is the basic difference between axially loaded and eccentrically loaded column, and that is what I have written here. In the case of applied load is eccentric, the column will develop compressive as well as bending stresses. So that is the basic difference between axially and eccentrically loaded column. Now coming to the solid column. Basically, we have in the timber column category, we have solid column or built up column. So if the column is of single piece of timber, then we call it a solid column. Here you can see this is a solid section, so we can name it a solid column. And if the column is built with two or more timber section, in that case we call it built up column. So in the next lecture we will design built up column. So here we are talking about the solid column only, in which we are taking only the single piece of timber which is having solid core. Now this solid column can be of any cross section. It may be rectangular, it may be circular, or it may be square cross section, and it may also be tapered. Now tapered columns are the column in which the dimension of the cross section is gradually decreasing with the height. So here in this case you can see this is the normal column and this is the tapered column. In this base dimension is gradually decreasing as we go up. So on the top this dimension is different from the base dimension. So we can have this tapered column also in the timber column category. Now talking about the next very important concept, which is the slenderness ratio of column. This slenderness ratio is very important concept because on the basis of ratio we can classify column in the category of short column, in the category of intermediate column, or long column. Now so therefore we first need to understand what is slenderness ratio. Slenderness ratio is basically a ratio of unsupported overall length of the column to the least lateral dimension of the column. Well, for example, we have say one column which is having this dimension say D and this dimension say S. Similarly, if we have another column, say it is a longer column, this dimension is same in this column which is say D, and because it is longer than this one, so we may name it, say it is having length S1, but we know that S1 is greater than S. Now in both the cases when the compressive load is applied, say on both column P load is applied, one is this column and on this column also P load is applied. Now which column has the vulnerability to bend because of this load? Obviously, as the length of column is increasing without increasing the cross-sectional dimension, the vulnerability to bend the column for bending of column is higher in the longer column. And in this category, as you can see, the column is having short length. So this column will have less vulnerability for against the bending. So therefore, this vulnerability is basically defined in terms of slenderness ratio. Now, slenderness ratio is basically the ratio of the length of column and the least lateral dimension, least lateral cross-sectional dimension. So here the least lateral dimension is D and length is S. So in the first case, the value of lambda, basically we represent slenderness ratio with lambda. So lambda in the first case will be S by D, and in the second case it will be S1 by D. So say if I name it lambda 1 and lambda 2, so we know that lambda 2 will be higher than lambda 1. So higher is the lambda 2, higher is the slenderness ratio, higher is the vulnerability to the bending. Now, what is the effect of bending? The effect of bending is that the load carrying capacity of the column will decrease as the length of column increases or as the slenderness ratio increases. So therefore, our intention to design short column actually, because in the short column, if the slenderness ratio is low, it will be able to utilize its full strength, which means it will fail under say compression, under the effect of crushing, because the actual or ideal failure of the column should be crushing under the compression load. But in the longer column, because in this case, in the longer column, it will fail under bending before it reaches at the crushing stage. So therefore, generally we design short column because in this case we can utilize more strength, or we can say that it can take high compressive stress. It can take high compressive stress, or we can say that permissible compressive stress for short column will be higher than the permissible compressive stress for longer column. So based on this lambda value, we classify our column as short column, intermediate column, and long column. So we will see this short, intermediate, long column uh, more. We will discuss about it more in the next slide. But before that, we will see uh, what is the maximum limit of lambda that we can allow for the design of column. So as per IS code requirement, the value of lambda should not exceed 50, which means S by D ratio should be less than 50. So that is the limit that we generally follow for the uh, timber column design. Now, in the calculation of lambda, how do we find out this D value, this least lateral dimension? How do we find out that? So this least lateral dimension is actually dependent on the uh, cross-sectional shape of the column. So for example, if we have the square column, say this is the square column, say if this is the dimension S, so in the square column, this dimension and this dimension will be same. So the least lateral dimension in this case will be D, which is the side of square. Similarly, if we have the rectangular column, say if we have the rectangular column, which is having one side shorter and the other side as longer. So in this case, if we consider this as S value and say this is say D value and this one as small d value. So in this case, which one will be the least lateral dimension? Obviously, this is the least dimension in the column. So therefore, this will be the least lateral dimension. Now, similarly, if we have the circular column, how do we find out least lateral dimension in case of circular column? Well, ideally it should be dia, but in the timber column design, we don't take the dia as the least lateral dimension. So in that case, what we do is, say if this is the circular column, so what we do is we equate it with equivalent square. So a circle, area of circle will be, say if this is the dia, say D, so area of circle will be pi d square by 4. We equate this with the equivalent area of the square. So if this is the side D and D, so in that case it will be D square. So therefore, to calculate the least lateral dimension will actually be this D value, because we have equated this circular area with the square. So therefore, the least lateral dimension will be D, which will be calculated as pi d square by 4. And capital D is the dia of column and small d is the least lateral dimension for this circular column. So that is how we calculate least lateral dimension in this case. Now, if we have the tapered column, how do we find out least lateral dimension? So IS code also have provided that relation to calculate in case of least lateral dimension. So for tapered column, the least lateral dimension will be given by this relation, which is D2 plus 1 by 3 and into in the bracket D1 minus D2. Now, what is D1? D1 is, say, tapered column will be something like this. So this dimension will be, say, D1 and this dimension will be, say, D2. So if we have D1 and D2, we can easily calculate the value of D. But IS code also recommend that this this D2 will be less than D1. Yes, D2 is this dimension and D1 is this dimension. Also, IS code says that the least lateral dimension should be less than 1.5 times of D2. So while calculating the value of D, if it is less than 1.5 times of D2, we accept that. If it is higher than 1.5 times of D2, in that case, we take D equivalent to 1.5 D2. So D1 is the dimension at larger end, D2 is the dimension of the column at smaller end. Now also one more thing that we have to check in case of tapered column, that the stress which induces in the tapered column, it should not exceed the permissible compressive stress in the direction of grain. So we also need to check how much stress is inducing in the column, and this stress should be less than permissible compressive stress. So this permissible compressive stress we can find out from the table like we have done in the previous lectures. So now coming to the another topic, which is classification of column and their permissible compressive stress. So as I said earlier, that short column will have higher permissible stress than the longer column. So therefore we have different relations for calculating the permissible compressive stress for the column. So we have basically three types of column. One is the short column. Short column will have, short column will be considered when the lambda value is less than 11. So in the column, if the S by D value or lambda value is less than 11, we will classify that column as short column. And for short column, the permissible compressive stress will be given by FC value, and this will be equivalent to FCP. Now, what is FCP? FCP is the permissible compressive stress for the timber, which is given in the permissible stress table, so which we have referred earlier also. So in this case, permissible compressive stress will be equivalent to FCP. Similarly, if we have the intermediate column will be classified when the lambda value, when this S by D value or lambda value is greater than or equals to 11, but less than K8. Now K8 is, again, we have a parameter which we have to calculate so that we can compare it to classify the column as intermediate column. So for this, we need to find out K8 value, and K8 value is dependent on the value of Young's modulus of elasticity and FCP. So FCP and E value, for example, we are using Salwood. So we will find out E value for Salwood from the permissible stress table. Similarly, FCP value can also be found from the permissible stress table. So once we find the values, we can easily calculate the value of K8. And then putting this value in this category, we can easily classify that whether our column intermediate or short column or the long column. So if the value of S by D is greater than K8, that column will be classified as long column. Now, if our column is intermediate column, in that case, how do we find out permissible compressive stress? So permissible compressive stress can be found by using this relation. So this relation is dependent on FCP value and S by D ratio and the value of K8. So it is dependent on these three parameters. Similarly, talking about the long column will be classified when S by D ratio or lambda value is greater than K8. So in case of long column, how do we find out permissible compressive stress? So in this case, this should be permissible compressive stress. So it will be permissible compressive stress, which is represented as FC. So in this case, FC is calculated by this relation, which is 0.39 into E by lambda square. Lambda is the slenderness ratio. So here, this FC value will be higher in short column, moderate in intermediate column, and smallest in case of long column. So this limit is followed in this manner. So that is the theoretical aspect that we have discussed regarding the column. so far. So now in the next part, we will design a column using this theoretical aspect. So thank you.